Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Times Network, for giving us this opportunity. We are delighted to be here and sharing our journey, our views with you. Firstly, I must acknowledge the few messages that the minister left with us, and he positioned the decarbonization as a new India's growth engine. And the previous panel discussed the complete decarbonizing the growth path of India. They talked about the decarbonizing mobility. They talked about decarbonizing cooling. They did talk about decarbonizing energy. And we, Greenko, we are a energy transition company, and we operate 10 plus gigawatt of renewable assets. And if you want to look at what India is, when India is talking about decarbonizing, what it is talking about, we are about 10 plus gigawatt today. By 2030, we want to be 50 gigawatt plus. So in another 4-5 years, we want to build 5 times the operating assets than what we have. So that is what is all India about. In one of the panels, it was also presented as an opportunity, and we also think it is an opportunity. Most of India is still to be built. Hence, the kind of legacy that some of the developed world has, we fortunately do not have, and we can build the way that it needs to be built, and it could be a decarbonized path. And that is an opportunity for us, and the Greenko looks that also as an opportunity. So as a company, we began as a renewable energy asset building and operating company. We built up to something like 7.5 gigawatt of the renewable assets in all the technologies, solar, wind, and hydro. And we face the same problem as much of the renewable energy industry faces, that pushing in renewable energy into the grid is no solution. You need to have storage. Very early in the day, about 5 years ago, we realized the challenges of storage. One of the speakers also mentioned about one particular state trying to not pay, or trying to play with the contracts, etc., etc. Something like that happened, but we didn't look that as a political issue. We looked that as an issue of the technology. So we also believe one thing, all the time the society accepts a solution, a green solution, when green becomes economically and socially acceptable. In fact, one of our annual report was titled, annual report or sustainability report was titled as Making Green Sustainable. Green is wonderful, but can you present with your innovation, can you make with your innovation green socially and economically acceptable? So that is precisely the point. So soon after, we didn't look that as a political challenge. We looked at that as a technological challenge and innovation challenge. Then we thought about the storage, explored all kinds of storage solutions. But we zeroed in on Make in India. So the people were talking about the supply chains of the storage systems like batteries, etc., etc. We looked at that. Not that the battery is not a viable solution. It is a viable solution. It has a role to play. But we went for pumped hydro storage is what we started about 4 years ago. And today we are very, very delighted to announce 1680 megawatt pumped storage capacity. The largest in the world, operating largest in the world, is not fully operational, but significantly operational, and we are ready to operate the 1680 megawatt pumped hydro storage capacity at Pinnapuram very soon. And we plan to build a storage capacity of 100 gigawatt hour per day by 2030. We want to build 50 gigawatt of renewable energy capacity by 2030. That is something like a 10% of India's target is what Greenko will be able to build, not only in the renewable assets, but also in the storages. So by building the storage assets and the renewable assets, largely we will be able to sort out the puzzle of that, storage puzzle of that equation, and will be able to provide a firm renewable energy. The moment I have firm renewable energy, okay, I almost become like, I have an affordable, firm, reliable, renewable energy. So it is possible to displace as much as possible the fossil fuels. That also was discussed in some of the panels here. Another thing that Greenko's founders always look at it and think about and see through is that India, in its ambition, when it expresses its ambition that we will be energy independent by 2047, we will do Vikasit Bharat, and in both these ambitions are actually going parallel to each other, and we see that an ambition of the India to become an electrostate. Previously, it is the petrostates which have dominated the world for a significant amount of time, and it is an opportunity for both China is building as an electrostate and India is also building as an electrostate. What does that mean? That means, as some of the panelists has already emphasized, we make clean energy, and most of the energy applications we turn that into electricity. So that is electrification, just like the mobility is getting electrified. Post that, okay, most of the liquid fuels, oil and gas, etc., and many of the chemicals, we also displace it by electricity. How do you do that by electricity? Electricity to power to X, power to a molecule, power to hydrogen, power to ammonia, power to methanol, etc., and actually you can displace much of it. So we are building an electrostate. Just as much aluminum making was going towards the Middle East because the oil and gas was available. Similarly, as the electrostates get built up, the aluminum making, steel making, etc., global ones will come to India. Okay, Greenko is also putting up 0.5 million tons of aluminum making in India, along with Rio Tinto. So I'm talking about this raise of electrostate and that possibility of India and Greenko being an essential partner in building the foundations of Indian electrostate is what we are seeing forward. Okay. When we are becoming an electrostate and also having that ability to deliver reliable, firm and affordable electricity, okay, we have an excellent opportunity. As Sumant already pointed out, that there are two big things that are happening. One is the AI, the other is the decarbonization. So AI requires electricity and water majorly. And we have the electricity at a reasonable price, affordable price, and also a clean electricity. And that is the reason why Greenko is also in the business of powering these new growth engines, which are the AI compute hubs. You must have seen in the public domain that the Greenko has announced multiple investments, including the one investment in Noida and similar other investments in Andhra Pradesh of AI compute hubs. So, most important what I was saying is that the ability to generate affordable, firm energy comes from our building of long duration energy storage, and we are building, as I said before, such long duration energy storage capacities all across India. One in Andhra Pradesh, place called Pinnapuram near Kurnool, 1,680 megawatt of pumped hydro storage is already ready, but similar ones are being built and almost about to be ready, one in Madhya Pradesh, one in Karnataka, and a few in Rajasthan and Uttar Pradesh, Maharashtra, etc., all across the state, a network of pumped storage. So this, what does that do? It not only firms the electricity as much as it can, but also it avoids partly the other storage challenges with the battery. So battery has still a role to play, but it makes that role lesser and lesser, hence the problems lesser and lesser. We also believe to be able to sort out the storage equation, all of us need to look at other alternatives other than the alternatives where the supply chains are stuck and supply chains are not in our controls. So it is very, very important to look at that particular point also. So further to having the firm and affordable renewable energy, the firm and affordable renewable energy can be used to produce green hydrogen and then on to green molecules, so that this green hydrogen and green molecules, to begin with, to be able to scale up the viability gap that is there in making the green hydrogen and green molecules, possibly can be sorted out by exporting the green molecules outside the country and becoming for the first time in our history an energy exporter rather than always being an energy importer. Okay, so that possibility is very clearly there. Greenko's sister company, AM Green, is already exporting to Uniper in Germany, not already exporting, already has off-take contracts which it will export next year, the green ammonia to Germany from India. Similarly, the green ammonia is likely to be exported out of our Kakinada plant, which is coming up, to Japan and Korea. So for the first time, we are also becoming an exporter. By doing that, what are we doing? We have a EU ready to pay a certain amount of premium on the decarbonized or for the green ammonia. We have a South Korea, we have a Japan, which is ready to pay another level of premium for the green molecules. So we are actually, our early stage investments, our early stage manufacturing experiments, let us say, are actually using that premium that they are ready to pay and scaling it up so that tomorrow when we want to go to net zero by 2070, okay, we can scale up and we can produce green ammonia, green hydrogen, green methanol, and for our own use we can do that. So we are using the ability for the developed world and their commitment to decarbonizing earlier than us, okay, to sell them the early manufactured capacities and then create ability to manufacture for the domestic supply. So this whole story of decarbonization, in the earlier panels also it was being discussed. Okay, is it possible to decarbonize and also possible to achieve the economic growth that we have a great ambition to have and we must have? So important thing here is to understand is that both of them are no longer sort of in conflict with each other. In fact, they are parallel to each other. As I said, for the first time, by decarbonizing our energy value chain, we are able to actually becoming self-sufficient for our own energy needs and the growth in the energy needs that are going to be in the future. So the economic objective and the decarbonization objective are running hand in hand, and more so with the kind of geopolitical uncertainties that have come up. Okay, so each and every country wants to be as much self-sufficient as possible as far as the energy supplies are concerned. In that context, actually decarbonization is no longer the other goal. Actually, it is very well sort of consistent with the goal of the economic growth, and that is the reason why India's economic growth, okay, talks about Make in India, Vikasit Bharat, and also the energy independent India by 2047. All of them actually work towards this whole issue of the decarbonization. So we are very clear, as Greenko, we are building hardware for this new economic growth engine, which is decarbonized, which is climate resilient, which is green. However, we know that the hardware is not sufficient. The software needs to be built. The soft part of it needs to be built. So the whole issues of the green and the responsible, etc., has to be accepted by us as a community, and there has to be a buy-in for that. I think I look forward to the next session, wherein we will discuss in detail as to how to build that software component of the hardware that we are already building. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Mr. Prasad, for all those insights. And of course, not to forget the jaw-dropping piece of clean energy infrastructure Greenko has built in Kurnool of Andhra Pradesh, the world's first gigawatt-scale hybrid plant combining solar, wind, as well as hydro energy.